Welcome to the Thought Feed brought to you by Inspirus Solutions Limited. I'm Yamini, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Guru Prasad, a senior manager in R&D from our product engineering division. Dr. Prasad holds a PhD in computational molecular biophysics and an executive MBA from IIM. So I'm quite intrigued to know his transition from biophysics to the IT field. So further, in this episode, we will shed some light on large language models, a topic that's reshaping the landscape of technology and IT services. So, Dr. Guru will help us unravel the complexities of LLMs and share his insights on their impact and future. So, hello, Dr. Guru, how are you?
Hey, hi, Yamini. I'm fine. So, how are you doing today?
I'm super excited to start this podcast episode with you because uh, LLM is something that, is, like I said, it's reshaping the tech world. So,
Yeah.
so before I get into the topic, I would first want to know that how from biophysics to tech, what is this? Like, how did you land here?
Oh, okay. So, I never imagined myself that I'll be joining the field of AI research as well. But like when I started my career in biophysics, right? So, I'm basically a theoretical biophysicist. So, which means that you always deal with algorithms which can characterize certain dynamic structures of proteins and DNAs. So that's where we introduced to all those optimization algorithms and molecular dynamic simulation related algorithms,
Okay.
which are like mostly which has an objective function and energy minimization techniques and all these energy minimization and maximization techniques.
Okay.
Most of the objective function involving objective functions and optimization algorithms, they are being regularly used in concurrent contemporary AI algorithms. What I see is like the concept called embeddings in today's generative AI, right? So that is actually one of the concept of our own theory in the realm of molecular dynamics as well. So we have a thing called a rotation vector space where there is a dynamic memory which with which each protein moves as a mass or rotates as a mass. So we have been that conceptually we are able to connect those things, vector embeddings and all these things in commercialized space of AI and ML.
Okay.
So that's where I get connected to.
So you are not alien to this
I'm not
area
alien.
as such,
So
but
basically, I'm an academician.
okay.
But now I see when you do study without any anticipation or anything, wholeheartedly when you study,
Correct.
that may pay you down the line in any time of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite fascinating. I mean, like you said, it's the kind of passion that one has.
Yeah.
That can actually lead to various avenues, and you never
Definitely.
know where you shine.
Definitely.
So, like you pointed out, AI. So, coming to our actual topic today, that is understanding LLMs. So, let's start with the basics because we want to know how exactly LLM or large language models function and how can a common man understand this.
Yeah. Before that, I would like to thank Inspirus as an organization, right? So, which has given me the space to explore a person who was into bioinformatics and biophysics, and they gave me the opportunity to explore and expand to the AI space. So that's where we gradually evolved to an AI level team here, which has been doing a very fantastic job here. So where we are also very easily adapting to multiple contemporary advanced AI models and workflows.
Okay.
So without thanking Inspirus, this doesn't move further. So I would like to
Great.
give a special thanks to Inspirus. So coming back to your question, large language models, right? So imagine, right? So let us start with a very simple thing. Any person, are you interested in reading stories?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we all
Okay.
love stories.
Okay. So imagine you are reading a book with two different stories, right? With maybe two different genres, right? So you would have read and understood the stories and with each different characters and storylines. So based on your level and interest of comprehension, your ability of comprehension, you will be able to answer questions from the stories when you've been asked, right?
Right.
So you don't mix up characters. So you know that for this story these are the characters, and for the other story there are the different characters.
Correct.
So but if I ask you, is there any common characters in both the stories? So there is a next level of thing there. You once those things comes from readily understandable things, but this is one step beyond that understanding.
That's
you have
more
to there is a task involved. You have to compare and you have to give an answer.
analysis.
Right? So you have to have a comprehending ability. Beyond that, you have to have an analytical ability.
Right.
So then in these kind of things, it's kind of, we can say this is the next level of tougher questions, and this typically involves a person's individual comprehending ability. If you ask a kid, it may not be answer. It may or may not answer very quickly. But since I see you are a bright candidate, you can easily say that okay, this character doesn't come into this story. You can just say. But if there is a common character in both the stories, definitely you will be able to answer as well.
Correct.
Do you agree?
Yes. Yes.
So now, what are the terminologies we spoke? We talked about story, comprehension, and answering ability, right? Let us map this to the concept of large language models. Story is data, brain is a large language model, and answering is an output from LLM. So typically these large language models are programs that has an ability to understand the language and to respond as the way human brains do. For that, they have to be trained with a massive amounts of data, instructed to be understanding and responding according to the context what they have generated.
Okay.
So training on LLM involves typically, in technical terms, unsupervised iterative learning on the massive amounts of text data like books, articles, and codes. This helps them learn the inherent patterns of occurrences of words and their positions and sentences that bring a contextual understanding. So maybe this I'll try to explain in a systematic way. Typically, generating an LLM involves the following work. It needs a training. Typically, LLMs are trained on massive amounts of text data that I already mentioned, and understanding. When you give an LLM a prompt or a question, it uses its knowledge of language to understand what you mean and what data it has to pick. The response is typically a token generation based on what it has learned. The LLM can generate different responses based on its role play. It can answer your question, it can write a story, it can even translate languages. Typically, it's a generative response that it can make.
So has the language translation already come, or
it has been it is there imbibed in its knowledge base.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since you said text and articles and everything, so it gives you like with a proper grammar structure, sentence
everything.
structure, and
It understands all those grammatic structures and everything. It understands.
Okay.
Everything, the starting from the position, everything, it understands those patterns. So think it of like this. The more stories you read, the better you get understanding the language, because the stories has a lot of vocabularies, right? So you understand the language, and you can once you are an expert in reading those stories, you can also start writing your own stories, can't you?
Right.
So that is the way the expertise come. So based on your interest, so you read more stories and you also come up with your own writing new stories. That's how LLM works. So LLM typically works in a similar way what I mentioned, but it works on a much larger scale.
So initially it was trained with other data and other knowledge, different kinds of responses to generate it, collects everything from the data that is already there. So do we kind of need any specific way to ask? So how do we do that?
Yeah, basically they have been trained on these kind of prompts only. So once it understands a prompt, it typically puts that prompt into a context and compares what kind of a context is matching with its existing knowledge base. Once it matches that context, it generates an output.
Right.
So again, so these are very really exciting period we are.
Correct.
But still they are under development. Every day it's evolving.
Right.
They can also make mistakes. That is why they are called hallucinating things. So LLMs are known for their hallucination. If they are not able to get the context mapping correct, it can give a wrong answer. That can be a hallucination.
So it's not actually accurate. We have to go back to get our facts checked again.
Exactly. So typically, so you can also think every individual LLM is a unique way it has been trained. So there is a difference between Ravi Verma speaking about an art and Einstein speaking about an art. Einstein is good at something else, right? So Ravi Verma is different. He speaks in a different context, right, in terms of art. So let us come back to the typical LLM. They can't reason or think for themselves initially, but they can be trained to think. They can be trained to think, but they are very good at following the patterns. If you give the right patterns, it can generate those, understand those patterns, and it can be a better LLM.
Right.
So it depends on our part of how to train that as well. Yeah.
So if we, like you said, it can kind of generate anything. So if we give them like a storyline to create a storyline, they'll give us a storyline.
Exactly.
So does it also produce codes and stuff like that?
Exactly. So you have to say you are a developer. If you give them a role play, it understands what a developer does. That knowledge base is already embedded into its knowledge base. So it immediately it starts writing codes. Maybe it can be of different languages. It can understand the patterns in a programming context styles in the. It can understand the difference between a Python and a Java code. It can write codes in Java. It can write codes in Python as you demand.
Right. I mean, one LLM that probably we all are using right now is the ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So there are other LLMs as well, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us like how the major ones, which are the major ones, and how each one is different from the other?
Yeah. If you would have asked this question 1.5 years ago, I would have said definitely yes, ChatGPT is the only model.
Right.
But now it's a very, very tough question to answer. So the reason being the large language models ecosystem or landscape is rapidly evolving, and this number of LLMs are being added on a multiplier basis rather than just keeping addition. So ChatGPT is obviously it was the first one. From them, Google competed with the Gemini. It has from the improvising from BERT and BART. It came up with Gemini, and then Meta, right? You know, the WhatsApp people.
Right.
So they have come up with Llama 2, right? And there are other popular LLMs as well. Claude from on Anthropic, Cohere, Falcon 40B. There are multiple open source today. So that is the way it is being seen. So Meta came up with the open source, and there have been a huge set of open source algorithms with which you can customize multiple LLMs for your choice. So earlier it was only text. Now it has become multimodal. It can generate image. It can generate videos. You would have seen it can even generate a movie, right? So that is a level we are having. It can generate a story. It can also capture. It can also generate a movie for you. So it's all, but the possibilities are like it's wide open, right?
GPT 3.5, I mean, that is kind of still limited with only the text part.
Yeah, exactly. So, GPT 3.5, but it was also restricted with the timeline, right? So from if you ask question beyond September 2022, it may not answer you.
Right.
It's not updated.
Correct.
So it has got its own limitation. So everything is evolving right now. So it's a kind of a huge chaos now, but everything going in a very, very exploratory direction.
Yeah. Since you just mentioned open source, so what is that difference? I mean, open source LLMs and closed source LLMs.
Fine tuning part is still pending with them, right? So they would have not given a full-fledged optimized model generation. So they leave it to you, and you can add your own creativity in developing customized LLMs. When organization like Microsoft or Gemini, right, Google, so when they release, so they would have taken care of multiple aspects of a particular LLM.
Correct.
So there are risks, right? Biasing. There it can also it should not use any other vulgar words or
inappropriate
languages and all these things. So they have to be very, very careful in releasing those things. Open source, yeah, they are a bit lenient, and they don't claim they don't have any kind of a restriction for these kind of things. So then it's your moral responsibility and legal responsibility to you restrict, and then you fine tune it for your own customization things. If it goes something wrong in a business critical process, right, it will be in trouble. So we have to be careful in that.
Okay, so which LLMs are open source?
as I said, Meta, from Meta, Llama 2, right? And then Mistral, Orca, Palm. There are.
I'm only aware of Llama and Meta.
Yeah, so that's fine. So if you go to a page called Hugging Face, right?
Yeah.
You can find a huge set of
okay.
open source LLMs for each purpose, for code generation. For they've been fine tuned and customized. People, when you use it for a constructive way, right? Definitely, you will have a very good scope for LLMs.
Right. So
typically, Hugging Face provides a platform for accessing and training a wide range of LLMs for yourself, including most of them include many open source models. Yeah.
Okay. So ChatGPT is
ChatGPT is a separate thing. You can Hugging Face provide access to ChatGPT as well. ChatGPT needs an OpenAI their API keys, right? So with which you can access that. They are closed. You cannot alter them. You cannot alter them.
Oh, okay.
Open source, you can alter them.
Yeah. Right. So what are the some of the big shifts that we are seeing or we
typically what are these what sets these LLMs apart, if you ask me?
Yeah.
Their size, right? The huge size which it has been trained with multiple dimensions, right? Say typically size in the architecture of LLMs, then the training data which goes in, right? And then the objective of the LLM, for what purpose it has been trained. Something may be a conversational focus, something may be a code generation focus. So it depends. And the easy thing for accessibility to access this LLMs. So how can you access from a small CPU, or can you access from or do you need a very high infrastructure thing to access those LLMs? So those kind of things, if usability, right? The way of how do you access.
So as in we can use that from a laptop, also from a mobile device.
Yeah.
Okay.
So each LLM will set apart itself as a unique value proposition when it comes to these kind of usability thing, and its focus of what kind of a objective it's solving, and what kind of a size and architecture it has been used for training it. And typically the data, garbage in, garbage out, best data, the best outcome. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In fact, my question was about the impact that it has.
Yep.
Like, what are some of the big shifts that we are seeing right now?
You mean big shifts like what kind of applications or transformations which happen?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe let us talk about IT services, right? So within IT services, right, typically people look for operational critical process. They would like to automate that. That's right. Where the focus is going on. Business critical processes is still dangerous to explore from LLMs. Say, will you agree if a bank wants to automate your banking transaction?
Yeah, it's again a privacy
thing, right? So you may not be, the customer may not be willing to do. So there are some legal and legal aspects to it, right? And then the risk aspects to it. But other operational critical things, right? So where there are some kind of a regular routine task. So those things can be automated easily, with which you can focus the organization's productivity or workforce in a very focused way, rather than wasting on these kind of routine tasks.
Okay.
So those kind of efforts would actually leverage the possibility of LLMs into a bigger inevitable tools. So that's where the focus is currently going on.
Okay.
You may see in due course of time a lot of operational critical process automation in using LLMs.
Yeah, I mean,
typically they act as a catalyst, can I say? Yeah. Say I can give some examples if you want. So say you are building, you having your own say typically a banking as a chatbot experience, right? Every time you may have to update your information for the customer who is trying to interact with the bank. Right, so creating a digital human experience like conversational assistants, building conversational assistants with up-to-date, accurate information is a challenge. So today, say your central bank or a federal bank or a Reserve Bank of India announces a change of basis points. So how do you update it immediately in your website? That's a challenge for the bank. So if you have an LLM, it can automate that using only those updated information in the databases, everything. So it can automate that to a certain extent, and at least can give updated information to the customer as well.
Through a chatbot.
Right. So when you're interacting, you don't have to have a strenuous effort of updating everywhere all your information. So this can be automated. I'm just giving one simple example.
Okay.
So data entry, any kind of data entry, report generations, a simple script generations for all your work. So these things require a typical human resources that can be automated using LLMs. So that you can also think of more strategic work in your organization, right? It can happen in any kind of an IT enabled organizations.
So what I understand is one is all the repetitive tasks become easier. They become more automated. And as a workforce, we get more opportunity to focus on the larger part of business where we can function better. And the rest of that can be taken care by LLM.
True. So you can focus on more on your core competence.
Correct.
So most of the organizations do outsourcing, right? So that outsourcing can also be reduced to maximum extent. You can have control over your operation critical processes.
Okay.
So yeah.
So since you already mentioned that it cannot be completely, experimented from in the business setup as such. Because there are privacy issues and other kind of threats that may occur. So that brings us to challenges. So what are the other limitations that of LLMs that companies should be aware of?
Let us talk about applications, right? Applications are also plenty. I'll come back to the limitations because once we open up the application space, then we can come back to the limitations. Right? So as I said, the personalized digital human experience, right? Customer chatbots, customer experience. Then your automation part, right? Then your innovation product development. So where your products can be developed much faster. You can accelerate your product development efforts. Say software development cycles can be made quicker. So once you have an access to LLMs, how do you generate codes? When you give a prompt and it says immediately it throws out a code with a very small minor customization, you can immediately deploy that code. So that's going to be a game changer for most of the software companies.
Okay.
Right. And then most of the organizations are today data driven. So like say you have a data analysis and insight. If you want to make a quick report generation, if you want to analyze your data, you need a subject matter expertise to analyze those hidden patterns inherent in the data. So those things can be handled by LLMs today. With a simple level of prompt engineering, you can customize and automate those processes. And of course, you can say in terms of cyber security, right? LLMs can act as a cognitive SOC for you. It can detect anomaly transactions. It can detect anomaly messages in your SOC enterprise security data and can immediately report to you. So basically, any kind of it can even generate training programs for you. So say you have a kind of say some new colleague is joining you, new peer is joining your organization. You may have a kind of a set of soft skills training and things like that. You may have to impart on the new candidate, correct?
Okay.
So you if you have any changes or any updates, right? Someone has to sit and write, okay, what are the skills that has to be enhanced for these things, these kind of things. Those project documentations can also be automated. If you have anything to automate, you can automate and it can generate a training program for your newly joining colleagues.
You mean what the training program as in what all we can have for the candidate? As in give a list of.
So all the process can be accelerated much quicker.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, customer service, chatbots, virtual assistants, then sentiment analysis. The way the person is conversing, right? You can easily grab those sentiments. What kind of the person is angry, what kind of emotion that statement is being made.
Okay.
All those sentiment analysis, everything can be captured. LLMs are pretty good at it. And beyond that, when I say application oriented, right? Not only in IT industry. So take the case of healthcare. If you want to say drug discovery, right? Personalized medicine. All those very advanced things, right? So LLM can come very handy actually. So
as in how does it help? How does it help in drug discovery? I would like to know. So
typically, in earlier days, right, computational bioinformaticians they used to write a lot of pattern generating scripts. So they tried to build scripts which can discover those patterns in genes and gene expressions.
Correct.
But right now, LLMs they are with the way they have been trained, right? They have been trained on unsupervised clustering algorithms. They can generate much better patterns than individual humans can do.
Okay.
So many unseen patterns can be generated if LLMs have been used in the right way. So that applies to even the cyber security data as well, enterprise security data as well, right? So new patterns can be, new rules can be created with this if you constructively use LLMs. So it has potential applications has been foreseen now. Any kind of fraud detection in the bank transactions, in the monetary transactions, LLMs are pretty much capable of capturing those things.
You also mentioned sentiment analysis. So
True.
Can you just give us an example where how it kind of helps?
So you have say right now you can imagine there has been an interview going on, right? So it's not always that the person is willing to attend the interview or he's hiding something.
Okay.
A lot of emotions can be sensed from a conversation. As a human, we can sense it, right?
Okay.
If a candidate is not comfortable, if a candidate is angry for the question being asked, so there are a lot of aspects to it. So those kind of aspects based sentiments can be analyzed from the conversations what is happening. LLMs are pretty good at it.
Okay, so this could also be like if a bot kind of a thing is interviewing the candidate.
Exactly, it can generate.
So it can easily identify if the answers are
and then
what kind of an emotion the candidate is going through.
So the moment you ask a tougher question, how the candidate is reacting or responding to it, and what is the answering ability. Say other typical, say in the marketing research scenario, right? So you can generate contents, right, automatically. Very creative contents it can generate, very creative images it can generate, and once you have customer data, it can analyze those customer data and see what kind of preferences and trends that has been. You can analyze those trends. You can understand the customer preferences.
Right.
So and what else it can say? Say for a customer segmentation task, right? It can group those customers based on your own with their behavioral profiling. It can give a clear customer segmentation data. You don't have to write a code. Don't have to put a context to it, and then you don't have to write a code and analyze those things. Everything can be automated.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is like even for the e-commerce part also,
exactly.
This can be useful for the customers.
Exactly.
I mean, they will get what they want.
LLMs form a part of a natural language interface to those tasks. You don't have to call a program or do like that. It can automatically form a natural language interface between the data and the query. So it become a very natural conversation. You don't have to write SQL queries. You don't have to write kind of a typical database queries and all. It becomes very easy.
Okay.
So that's the advantage LLMs have.
All right.
And if you want to generate new codes, it can generate for you. If you want to complete a code, it can complete for you, because it's all being it has the LLMs can learn more codes, and it can also generate such typical good quality codes.
Right.
So it can do the testing. It can check the quality of the code. It can check the vulnerability in your code. A lot of things are possible. Yeah.
So there's a continuous data that is being generated just to help LLM function in a much more better way.
Yeah.
I mean,
the thing is, it all depends on what you want in as a context. If you can give it, you can make it as a role play. You are a software tester, then it will behave. It can behave as if it is a software tester. So it's up to you. How do you see that LLM and you get back?